Okay, we're going to do something we don't normally do here. We're going to be talking about opera.
Yes.
And
politics.
And politics. So this is going to be a quasi-review. This is, I actually have an idea for an opera myself.
Oh,
I think, yes, we could have Ray Rice, you know, he's the football
Yes,
star
I know
who
who he
beat up
is,
his
yeah.
girl, and
Yeah.
give him an aria, when, you know, when he explains why he had to beat up his wife.
no.
Okay.
No.
No?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
wait.
What
How
do you have?
about,
Yeah,
how
sure,
about this
something
one?
coming in.
Birth of a Nation. Now, that's a classic film, so that's art. So that should be an opera, and it shows the Ku Klux Klan glorified. That's an organization, by the way, that loves to lynch black people.
You're telling people that you don't think they know?
Fortunately, we don't have a very active Klan in New
It's true,
York.
but they even have them in South Park, so come on, you know.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't watched South Park,
okay.
so I didn't realize. You know, okay,
I
but
told.
not a good idea to glorify a racist group. Okay,
No.
okay, I
I
got
see
one
where you're
more.
going,
You know,
okay.
how about 9/11? You know, we could give the terrorists who flew the plane. We have the story of the terrorists and maybe a quick glimpse of the people in the building.
You mean you're talking about 9/11 from the terrorist side? Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
yes. That,
Okay.
that's where,
Well, are these bad ideas? Yes. They're terrible ideas. They should not be on stage. In
Okay.
fact, I will tell you, though, I've been a professional critic for about 30 years, actually longer, and I have often wondered why a play was produced. But I have never said, you know, this should not be produced until now.
I think you've got a title there, though.
And
Why
I am
a
saying
play?
this, yes, on, well, it's an opera, actually,
Yeah.
The Death of Klinghoffer,
Yes.
which...
Say it again, because I don't think we...
The Death of
Klinghoffer,
Klinghoffer, which
okay.
is interesting because it's not about a guy who died, it's about a guy who was murdered. So I don't know why they don't call it the murder. Yes, I do know why they don't call it the murder of Klinghoffer. But this is the story, well, it's supposedly the story of Leon Klinghoffer, Jewish-American male, cripple. He was on a ship called the Achille Laurel, you know, kind of a love boat-like ship, having a nice romantic getaway with his wife. Palestinian terrorists boarded the ship and shot him, threw him over the side. Okay. Now, nothing wrong
And
with...
that is basically the storyline. I
Yes.
mean, that is what happened.
And nothing wrong with doing an opera about that.
And John Adams, the
Yes.
composer, has taken other real incidences.
Right, Nixon in China is probably his best
his,
known.
Dr. Atomic about the Atomic Project, Manhattan
Right.
Project. So this is
Right.
what he likes
So
to
he
do.
likes to write about recent history. And he is considered the premier opera writer,
Yeah,
the
pretty
composer.
much. Contemporary.
Which is probably why opera's
Contemporary.
not doing so well these days, but that's another story.
I don't like most of his work just because I find it boring. He does Philip Glass kind of stuff. It's all, you know, the same, and then it comes back and
Well,
it's the
Alice
same.
Goodman did the words, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, boy, this would never play on Broadway because it's so. These aren't even lyrics; they're words.
Yeah, well,
mean-
well, there's a lot of testimony in there. That's a
Yes.
part of a problem as well.
And the problem here is that they do try, for the most part, and show it from the side of the terrorists. Now, a lot of people have written, well, they say, you know, dirty Jew, or let's see, you know, if Jews, you know, where poor men are gathered, you can find Jews getting fat. And that didn't offend me to an extent because, well, they're terrorists. What would you expect them to say? But, and here's the problem, later on we show one of them singing a song about birds and dawn. One time we see them, you know, in Israel, in the Middle East, being evicted
From their own... yes.
in 1948.
Well, you see, but the British did this. The Jews didn't do this, and they don't make it clear enough to anybody that it's the British who gave away their land.
Well,
you know?
that's assuming, you know, and that, well, you could argue it wasn't even theirs to begin with because it was under
Exactly,
the British, it was
yes.
under the Ottomans,
Yes.
and a lot of them came when Jews started moving back to Palestine, which was in actually the late 1800s.
But let's go back to the...
Right.
We wanted to stay on the
bottom
line
line
with
is they try to get you to empathize with the terrorists.
Unbelievably.
And when you empathize with a terrorist, suddenly, well, you know,
Then it's not so bad.
you know, America is one fat Jew. Suddenly, those words say, well, maybe they've got a point.
Oh, please.
And that's the problem. It is anti-Semitic. It is anti-American, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it's both.
And it is racist. And why Lincoln Center considers this a work of art, I don't know. I will tell you one more thing. They say, oh, well, we also wanted to provoke a debate about the Middle East.
Well, it sure as hell did.
Well, it did, but if you want to provoke an honest debate, and I assume they want it to be an honest debate, you have to present all the facts. So here we see the aforementioned Palestinian, and they try to connect that Palestinian in 1948 to the terrorists
As if the
on
child,
the Achilles.
the child in 1948 might somehow be the adult in 1994,
or the mother,
or something like
the
that.
mother
Yeah,
of,
right.
of one of the terrorists. Interestingly, though, the one bone that they toss is the terrorists say, if there's peace, we are finished. We don't want peace. So that's one honest thing.
Well, they are definitely suicide bombers that go,
yeah.
and they don't commit suicide. So it's interesting.
But they were tried and convicted in an Italian court.
Except for the one guy who ostensibly was the person, Abbas, who supposedly was the spearhead of it. He didn't get caught until he got caught last year.
Yeah,
was it last year?
Something like that.
Recently.
I don't
comparatively
know.
recently.
But there are so many facts left out.
2005, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I read, anyway.
Well, 2005 fact, yeah, possibly. They don't show Jew. They say, well, we balance it because in addition to showing the Palestine, we show European Jews coming to Israel. Well, the first thing they do when they show in the movie when they show the European Jews coming is they say they're illegal refugees. The song that they sing shows absolutely no connection between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. They do not show Jews being evicted from the land 2,000 years prior. More importantly, or equally importantly, there were 850,000 Jews evicted from Arab lands. They had lived there for 2,000 years, so their claim to living there was as great as anybody's claim to living in Israel, and yet they were evicted. They don't show that. They don't show the fact that a lot of the Arabs left because they were hearing the siren song from their fellow Arabs. So, come on, we'll join our army, we'll wipe Israel off the mat, and you'll be conquering heroes.
There's a point at which art and politics meet very often in good theater, when we just saw the LBJ play.
Oh, excellent.
We saw the Frost-Nixon play. There's a time when art and politics can meet. There's another time when there is such a thing as propaganda. And, for example, I would say that Lili Riefenstahl's Olympiad, the film, is a propaganda film. It's one of the most beautiful films you'd ever want to look at. It makes you sick to your stomach when you realize what it's about. And as you said, Birth of a Nation, which is glorifying the Klan.
Right.
And whether or not that's what the man meant to do, since the man who wrote it, my father had a copy of this, wrote another book to try to call The Southerner, to try to ameliorate what he had said in this particular piece because it raised such an uproar. And he supposedly didn't realize it. But that's not the point. The point is, and I don't think John Adams ever expected this kind of a furor.
I don't think so.
I don't think he believed that that's what it would do. Neither of his other plays did that. They were accepted for what they are. Operas, I should say, operas. This has raised extraordinary fuss and furor, if you will, over, first of all, whether the opera should be put on at all, whether the opera company, whether that's at fault. And I am not someone who says we should have censorship. I am not for censorship. That is not the point. If you put something else on immediately that will balance this, if there is a fair and equal, if you can find an opera that glorifies Jews the way this glorifies the Palestinians, I'd be perfectly happy to have you show them both on alternate nights. I would be happy with that. That's my answer to this. But there is no such animal. It doesn't exist.
Well, my feeling is, though, there are times when something is, there's this one scene in Fiddler on the Roof where Tevye is going on this hand, on that hand, and at one point he says, there is no other hand.
Right.
There is, when it comes to murder, there is no other hand. You murder an innocent person. There's no justification. I don't care what your childhood was like. I don't care what your history is like. Look, all those Jews they show coming, they'd have the right to go and kill people. They were coming from the Holocaust. That was a horrible thing. But would an opera, say, about 9/11, the families of the 9/11 people killed in 9/11, going to a Muslim neighborhood and storming it, destroying their property, destroying their businesses, killing them, would that have been justified if that had happened? No.
Obviously, both of us, and we come from very different backgrounds, obviously both Charlie and I are very, very upset about the doing of this play at this particular time. Whoever's running the opera company may have thought that indeed this was the right time to do this. We think there's no time to do this. At least I believe that's what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying. Look, would you do Birth of a Nation, Met? Would you even do an opera that used the N-word? I doubt it. Would you do an opera about gay bashing?
Well,
and glorify, or how about a story about a rapist and he has an aria about, well, her skirt was short. I had to do it. Come on, that would never fly.
It's very difficult to be unemotional about this, and so sometimes words don't come the way they're supposed to or you'd like them to. So I think I've said my piece on this for the moment, and I think we could just keep going over and over the same territory.
And
but
so we're basically, racism hiding behind the veneer of art is still racism. And this opera, and I will tell you in case you're wondering, yes, Leslie and I have seen the opera. There is a movie version of it. We got a hold of it. We saw it, so we know what we are talking about.
Which may be even more prejudicial than the opera itself. To be honest with you, I believe I saw this opera or pieces of it once. I don't remember seeing the whole thing. I remember seeing pieces of it, and so it's hard to tell when you see pieces of it. But if you want to look at the film, it's an inflammatory. It's totally inflammatory. And totally polemical, as far as I'm concerned. And it's been taken off IMDb, by the way. You can't buy it on IMDb anymore. Charlie was able to get it through Amazon through a private seller.
And as far as its entertainment value, I'll just say it's no Carmen, and it's certainly no Sweeney Todd.
I think the thing that offended me the most was the housewife with the very bad dye job, red dye job, who's hiding out and showing and eating her gift basket and not sharing it with anybody, and if fear that they will come and get her and saying, I don't know how long we're going to have to. She's singing this, by the way.
She's alone in her room.
I know. She's hiding out in her room. Everybody else has been taken up on deck, and she's hiding out, clutching her gift basket, basically talking about how long it's going to take that she has to live on her chocolate and not share it. And she is obviously Jewish, and the point is, I mean, to me, that is the thing that they're trying to show in that movie. That was what really got to me. I was so offended by this whole thing.
Yes.
Palestinians or no Palestinians, that character is where does that come through? What is that there to show?
I think in the original production of it, they had, the Klingoffers had Jewish friends who were extremely stereotypical. And I see we only have 2 minutes.
Okay.
So basically, no playbills, no programs.
Well, you're going to be able to show some of I hope some of the, we'll be able to do that? Some of the opera, perhaps?
Well, we'll see.
We'll see, okay.
We'll see. I think, I don't know, do you show an opera if you're doing a piece about not showing an opera?
About not
seeing
point.
Probably
Good
not. So I don't think we actually are going to.
Yes, that's, you made your point, Charlie.
So we're hoping that they will be showing, they will get themselves a different opera. We hope that the Met, when you, artistic voice, artistic freedom of art, artistic expression also comes with responsibility. Okay. We hope the Metropolitan Opera will embrace that responsibility and not show that and not show this opera, and we definitely will not be.
We won't be in the audience
on the aisle.
You won't see us two on the aisle, right?
And that is our show. So when you go to the theater, and
you will see
maybe the opera, but not this one, you will see Leslie and me, us too,
on the aisle.